So Claire,
let's get going.
So first question to you then, this question that I asked in my initial email to you, what business doors has having the MCC opened to you?
Okay, so going back about 10 years, what I was realizing, my work is predominantly in the Middle East and of course globally, with being online, and we can travel again. And before traveling, there was work in different places, especially across the Middle East. And RFPs, requests for proposals from organizations, were showing even back then, when coaching in certain areas of the Middle East isn't as far ahead as other parts of the world, that organizations actually wanted people who were PCC or above. So in the EMCC terminology, senior practitioner or master practitioner. And so that was like, oh, right, wow. And then there was a trickle of MCCs, and there's still only, I believe, there's under 500 MCCs globally. I'm not sure about the number of master practitioners with EMCC. And then, of course, with AC, which has just opened an office in this region in Dubai, they were forgive me, but not really heard of in this part of the world. So to have the distinction of MCC definitely meant that CVs, proposals were looked at. It was, in a way, a door to get in and have that conversation. And also doing work for, without names, for example, top business schools from the UK, MCC was needed. It was a major advantage for that type of work, and also in terms of pricing for coaching and also pricing for mentor coaching as well. Then moving on from there to about 6 years ago, moving into supervision, having the MCC or master practitioner, as well as being a supervisor, that really meant that people said that they wanted that combination. So the years of experience, the stamp of approval, and also many people at MCC or master practitioner level have actually trained, which we didn't mention the other day, Claire, it's just come up, trained with a number of different coaching schools in different approaches because of the hours of training that's needed for that level. And personally, I found that extremely enriching, rewarding, and beneficial, not only for the content and the delivery, but in terms of the networking and the way collaborations have happened, being with people in different communities at, for example, MCC and MP level.
So it occurs to me that we should check with everybody who's here whether we have any other MCCs in the audience. You want to put a hand up if you are already MCC?
I'm saying no names, but I know some are very close.
Katrine, is that?
I don't know if you consider master practitioner and MCC as MCC.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm master practitioner.
Yeah. So, Katrine, when you hear Claire talking, does that ring true for you as well?
Yeah, completely. It really opened doors for big organizations that selected precisely senior practitioners or MCCs, master practitioners, whether ICF or EMCC, whatever. And this is becoming more and more a criteria to enter into these big international organizations, or even French big organizations. So this opened door, yes, really clearly. This also opens the door for pricing. You don't have to justify yourself because you correspond to high level standards of practice, supervision, continuous professional development, reflexivity. You're used to complexity. You have a range of tools. So this has to be paid, and you don't have to justify your price. So you can afford higher prices. And sometimes when people want to know more details, then I'm used to give all the components of this price. But this will go further in the rooms, I think. But this really enabled a gap in pricing too, and really an enrichment in exchanges with peers. Interaction, as well as it opened doors for me for higher level supervision. I am a supervisor as well, but I changed my own supervision spaces, collective and individual, and what richness. That's great. What else could I say about doors opened? People come to me more as a master practitioner, I mean clients or peers, to have a profound conversation about complex topics for them or preoccupations. It's easier. It creates a secure space more quickly. That's what I can observe.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And Xenia, am I saying your name correctly?
Yes, thank you. Excellent.
So you put your hands up when I asked whether we have any master coaches in the room. What?
No, I'm not a master coach, but you asked, I think, if I understood right, EMCC accredited coaches. But I'm not a master.
So master certified coach or
okay.
Practitioner.
I'm senior practitioner then.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you. Did I miss anybody else who is a master coach? Okay, well, let's come back to Claire with the next question then. Did you increase your prices then, Claire, when you moved into that space of being an MC? Oh, Dorota, you look like you have a question. I hope I haven't said your name wrong.
No, I don't have a question. I'm also
okay.
Good to have you on the call.
Lovely. So Claire, back to you. Did you increase your prices when you became?
So this sometimes imposter syndrome. Am I ready? Is the environment ready for me to be there and all that type of stuff? I didn't increase them. Looking back soon enough. Okay. We could go back many pages into, patterns in life around that, but we won't go there because it's not supervision. And what I did do is any new engagements or new clients, I moved then. It was for me, and maybe not for everyone, trickier to ask existing clients that known me a long time. The advice around that would be, let them know that it's going to happen soon and that you will be, and just have that open conversation. I think the other thing is I got more interested in pricing and savvy in pricing, and realized that I can charge those companies a certain amount, which means that it frees up my time for the volunteer work that I want to do. So by charging more over there with those that can afford it, it means that there's, whether it's knowledge share sessions, this is voluntary, of course, or whether it's actual pro bono coaching. So for me, that model works really well because it's close to my heart. And also I realized at the MCC level, I needed to get more businessified, if that's a word. So yes, I'd include things like psychometric profiling for extra amounts, and throw in one of our reflective journals that would go via Amazon to them, or face-to-face, give it in person. But then the things like, for example, unlimited WhatsApp messages, you know, sometimes around contracting, what different time zones, and they're coming in at different times of the day, or emails. What do I need to enable me to be at my best for my clients? And really focusing on clarity about what is offered and what isn't offered. I'm sure it supported my clients more, it supported me as well. The other thing there is also, sometimes there's work that I just want to do it with X person. And so because of that, or maybe it's a coaching client that I'm making up is a challenge, different sector that I'm used to. And so sometimes I may choose to price it that bit cheaper because I totally 100% want to have the experience of that work. Some people consider that also when moving up the hours required. So this, the deference threshold that Nick Smith talks about, am I comfortable with what I'm receiving for what I'm offering? And there's loads around that alone. Because if we go in and we feel, oh gosh, I should have charged a bit more for this, you know, there was senior exec, for example, then are we doing our best work with that, you know, looking through that particular experience, feeling lens? And then the other thing is, I used to charge really, I'll say cheap for group. And what I realized was when it's charged at a more, you know, competitive rate, there's more commitment. I'm sure many of you in the early days of coaching, you know, £20, I'm thinking when I first started, and it was £20. So people turned up late or cancelled last minute. So there's the bravery around, be brave with pricing. And then the other thing is, if it's a organization that are providing me with a lot of work, then sometimes I'm happier to reduce the price a little bit if it's guaranteed big projects. And then the other one is team coaching, which is a whole new woo. With that, and co-coaching with all of this, with that, I tend to price in two phases. So the exploration phase with diagnostics that are 360, and that is charged, and they know upfront the range. And for the second part, depending on the data, the range will be from here to here. So treating it like a project was something that I found works good for me, but it also works really good for clients. And my advice would be, don't step into the let's do the conversations and see how much is needed without getting paid for it. Because, you know, I used to do that. And then with team coaching, there's so much, you know, I know this from supervising team coaches as well. It's not just me, this one. There's so much more complexity. Therefore, there's more, I'm sort of here, there's more thinking time, you know, in the evening reading a book and, oh, I start to think about that team, or, you know, or that supervisee who's coaching that team. Just before this call, I reached out to one. I was so curious how the 360 feedback went with her team. And so in that way, remember, it's not just in the session, it's more about the project as opposed to an hourly deliverable. And Claire, I know I'm going on, but I've got to get all this out as well. You know, the business license, the office staff, the subscriptions to LinkedIn and Zoom and Deck Hive and Miro and the auditors and the accountants and the time and the advertising and woo. Did I mention office rent? I don't think I did. What about all of that?
And Claire, do you tell your clients that your charges cover all of those things? Because they're just looking at your hourly, they're just dividing the amount of time you're with them by, dividing it to see what your hourly rate is. They're thinking it's just for your time in that hour. They don't necessarily realize that we have all of these other costs in the background. So I wonder whether you ever share that with clients.
If it came into a conversation, I would. I've never done that. However, sort of line items, some people do it the price. I'm thinking here again, team coaching, whereas line items for the different things. So, regular reports or the profile, for example, before and after. Some don't want the after, they just want the before. So it will be X amount extra. In terms of the, the sort of fixed costs and so forth, I think on the business side, people get it more. That said, working also as an internal coach and hiring externals, I know I was aware, and some colleagues not necessarily, in terms of all of that stuff. And also the proposal writing. Get yourself investing time in a fabulous top and tail of a proposal, and then every time you just change the middle, outsource, get a designer to do it really fab, and then you've got it there every time, because that type of thing, and the rehearsal of what you might say and looking at their values to blend them in, all of that is really important. Oh, top tip from it's a private health insurance company in the UK, and I was speaking when I was on a program with one of their procurement people. So for proposals, do it landscape as, sort of slides PDF'd, as opposed to portrait, because it's psychologically seen as portrait is more a CV, whereas proposal this way is something they receive easier. What am I trying to say? Prefer. So that was an interesting tip.
Really interesting. Oh, we're getting all the little juicy stuff. So Claire, what is the most that you have ever personally paid for coaching? Because the reason I ask that is
it being recorded?
I think it's, well, my value system says that as coaches, we should not be selling this stuff to other people if we do not invest in coaching for ourselves. And so there's something really important about this question, about how much are we willing to invest in ourselves. So are you okay to share that?
Yeah, I can share. So now I have more supervision than coaching for me. I've done a lot of work over the years on me. Of course, I dip into it now and again, and it tends to be reciprocal. However, I'm thinking 2012-ish, because I know what was going on at the time. And she's called Sam, and she is a UK coach that owns Aspire, and she's now in the States. And the way she does it, which I love, is coaching someone for a year. And it's around an hour and a half, 2 hours a month. And play with things like the longer gaps as opposed to weekly sessions. I'm going to the extremes there, because different things work for different clients, and Google says an hour. Who says an hour? Get me out of that box. And so for her, I think it was 15, 16 sessions over a year, and it was around $15,000.
And
did it work?
Value for money?
I was just going to say, did it work? Yeah, because I was paying, and it was like, flipping heck, I've got to make sure I do my homeworks.
Yeah. So it got you to rise to the occasion.
Totally.
Paying more. Yeah.
And it was in the Designed Alliance, it was hardcore. So what I mean by that, listen, we are getting to business, and I want my coach to be totally fierce courage, used to be in the old ICF competencies, you know, that bravery, yes, support, and the challenge was definitely there.
Mhm.
And she interviews and she chooses who she really wants to work with. So that's an interesting one as well.
Mm. And so are you willing to share, Claire, your range of prices? I know, you know, from what you've said that you've got different prices for different kinds of organizations, but can you give us an idea of kind of scope and scale?
Yeah, so from £0 to £600, that might be $750 a session.
And how long is the session?
So I know that top end, and interestingly, that type of work has gone via someone else, a middle person, which has a much bigger, massive global name. That's where my top paying work has come from. And sessions were an hour for that.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. So in the interests of us keeping to our agenda, we are pretty much smack on when we said that we would go into breakout rooms. So I'm going to share my screen again with the questions, which you may all wish to jot down or take a photo or a screenshot. So we're going to ask you to go into these breakout rooms for about 25 minutes. So we're going to give you some really meaty time. And Claire, presumably while I'm talking, you're setting up the breakout rooms. So these are the 4 questions. And of course you can, you know, talk around them. And if there are other questions that you're interested in asking each other, please do feel free. But please think about a fair exchange. So this is not all about the most experienced or the person who's been coaching for longest sharing everything that they do, but it's also about everybody else in the breakout group sharing what they do as well. And it's useful to know, you know, what's different in different countries, different regions, different, you know, what do you do in terms of the difference between who you give a discount to and who you don't, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So those questions are: what market research have you done around pricing that you might share with the group? What do you personally charge? What informs your charges, and how do you charge? And anything else that you want to talk to each other about.
And I think as well, because we've totally got a global group here, the geography is one thing, and then also the sector, you know, volunteer work for NGOs, different sectors, and then levels, you know, senior execs and boards compared to middle managers or others. And then life coaching. Maybe not everyone on the call does business coaching. Mm-hmm. There's also one pricing thing that I like that someone does. This is for supervision. And what they do, they ask you what you charge your client for coaching, and that's what they charge you for the supervision session, which I think is pretty cool. Because sometimes people think, well, supervision, why am I paying for this? You know, until they've done it and then they realize the benefit. But also, you know, some people for some reason don't want to charge their supervisor who's enabling them to be at their best, and potentially, if you use the topic, even charge stepping into more of what you deserve. You know, they don't necessarily want to pay the supervisor what they get paid for a coaching session themselves.
I have to say I get a bit frustrated by that actually we charge less for supervision than we do for what the person charges out for coaching.
Yeah.
That doesn't quite feel like a fair exchange to me.
Yeah. And then there's
my opinion.
There's impact and value and return on expectations, all those things, you know, and then go to yourself, what what's your relationship with money and time? Those are really useful, even existential questions around this topic.
So with that, when Claire presses go, please accept the breakout room and move into that breakout room with whoever you are assigned.
Right now.
Right now. Have fun. Learn lots. So if you haven't already, please press join to join your breakout room. See, we have a few.
No props, Mark.
Right, that looks like
There we go.
most people have gone. So room 5, we just have 2 people in. That's okay. That's fine. I suppose I could go and join them, or we could both go and join them, or should we stay where we are? What do you think?
Do you want to go learn with them? Sarah's amazing. She's done, I think she used to work for Deloitte. She was on one of our coach training programs. Do you want to go learn?
I think I will, if that's
You go there.
all right. Be on your own for a bit.
Yeah.
So will you call us back in at the top of the hour then?
I will. See you in 20 minutes.
All right, see you then.
I'll have my water.